Hi, this is gonna be a daily experience video. These days I spend a lot of time with God, so I don't have like a daily experience video because there's so many things going on. Not always that glorious, but many. A lot of God dealing with all kinds of things in me and around me. So it's quite intense, and most of them are too personal, or actually, I just simply cannot explain it, not even to myself, what's going on. So it's quite rare that I can share something with you, but there are things that somehow got deeper in me, and then I feel like sharing, and this is one of them. I really enjoy releasing control over my life. Like, not just like, oh, lead my life, like my destiny or my career or my relationship. Like, we kind of tend to give over things that are like very spiritual or very large scale things, like the decisions of my life. Like, oh yeah, I surrendered them to God. But I find it super exciting to surrender to God. Nah, no, it sounds so spiritual. I don't want it to sound very spiritual. It's just simply so much fun not controlling a little bit throughout the whole day. Like, it was like that when Francois, the Mirror Bible translator, came to Hungary. It was a surprise. No one was prepared for it. Uh, in the morning, a friend of mine put me into his car and took me there. We just arrived there on time. It turned out that I would translate all the Hungarian speeches back to Francois, and it was so good to like see him in person. He's so full of the kindness of God. He's just like the way I saw him to be on the videos, in person as well. And it's so good that someone like spent like decades with a revelation. I just discovered like the last couple of years. Like, you are my image, you are the mirror in which my reflection can be seen. This revelation from God is something that I've been hearing from God for quite a while, and it's so good to. But this quite a while is like a couple of years, like not that long. And it's so great to see someone like who is old and spent like decades with that revelation, and just to see that how many fruits this revelation produced in his life, and how much he's like the God he believes in, you know. he has this very kind and soft and gentle view on God, and the guy is very much like that. But it really inspires me to see like an old man who spent like a long time living their lives with the revelations that I'm just starting to discover. Like, it's like, oh, I'm not lost, you know. It feels like that. Anyway, it was awesome to listen to him. And I had no plans for the whole day. And at lunchtime, some of my friends showed up, and we went for a walk, and we ended up grabbing some lunch, and we bumped into random people. We had fun, and we were a little bit late for the afternoon session, and it turned out that I'm gonna be the translator for the next sessions, and I wasn't prepared. I used to be like really anxious about translating, preparing for it, being worried about it, and not sleeping the night before. That kind of person is who I used to be. And I hated translating. I'm an interpreter, like I have the official paper for interpreting, but I hated doing that always because I hated the attention, hated like speaking, all parts of it. And then I just felt like I really enjoy this. And I felt like, you know, power is leaving me while I'm speaking. Like I really feel like there's more to it than words when I speak these things. And I had fun with it. And I got tired very soon, and then I made a lot of mistakes. And always when I made mistakes, um, previously, like years before, I felt so ashamed that I felt like I'm a piece of shit and I shouldn't have been born, things like that. And I was just like, I was just laughing at it, and I let other people laugh at it when I made a mistake, and I felt like there is zero burden on me. I just enjoy being in the center of attention and making mistakes and having fun and all that. So it was amazing. And at the end of the sessions, we stayed with some folks from the conference, and we had like another hour of chit chat in front of the building. And a woman came up to me who didn't know anything about me. In Hungary, a lot of people know me from my YouTube videos. I make it just as a joke in English, but in Hungarian, it's like Christian folks would know me from from my videos. And this woman knew nothing about me, and she still like kept telling me that it's so obvious that I'm full of God. It was so good to like just seeing me, how I translate, and she just started to tell me all kinds of compliments, how the presence of God is obvious on me. And it was such a confirmation for me. Like for years I was like struggling to, you know, holding on to the truth that I can be brave, I can shine, I can be free of anxiety, I can be center of attention, I don't have to be afraid of people. Like I was clinging to those truths while all the experiences and all the circumstances shouted just the contrary. And it felt like there is no fruit to my little attempt to like try to get healed and all of that. So for years I felt like there is not much truth of me clinging to the truth about myself, about my identity, about like who I can be, about my confidence especially. And it was so good to like finally seeing it. Like I started to believe it, but it's also like visible to others and visible to me. And it's not just like a belief that seems to be an illusion, and I try to hold on to it because it's the truth, but it's like a tangible reality. Like I really am that free. I really can shine. I can really live and enjoy myself. So yeah, I'm. It might be a bit weird for you to hear that because you see my videos and you think that like I'm the overly confident YouTuber girl, but I was the super anxious kind of girl. Um, I couldn't do anything that I haven't planned. I hadn't planned for days before. Um, so for me, like giving up control for a whole day is completely supernatural. For some people it might be a challenge to like learn keeping deadlines and have some structure in their lives, but I can't help you with that because it was always natural for me. What was unnatural is to give any freedom to God to move in my life, or give myself any freedom to enjoy life. So yeah, it was so great to like finally see the fruits of clinging to the truth. And these fruits didn't happen when I expected them. It was a random gift, it was a surprise. And yeah, it was so visible on that day. Like the random woman could see it and tell me it was just the top. And then we had an amazing dinner, like, and when I went back home, it was still quite early, so I could still spend some time with God before I went to sleep, and I could process things. So it was just an amazing day where I didn't control anything, and it was awesome. When I am with God the whole day and I only eat some, noodle soup, it's not like it's visible that God can micromanage and organize everything for a day of my life. It's still him, but it's not that obvious. But when there are a lot of things happening and it's still not organized by me, but it's still very well organized, it's like a proof to me that, like, oh, God can really do it. It's not something I need to supervise. In case God doesn't do it well, I might jump in. I always had that concept. And a few weeks before, I had a similar day when I just had long hours in contemplation, and then I felt like drinking something. And at that point, my sister called me and she said she would come over. She lives like 20 minutes away from me. Still, we meet quite rarely. And we both felt like walking, and it was snowing, and we were walking so much that we end up going to the mountains of Buda, which is a mountainous area of Budapest. And it was so beautiful. And then we got lost in the forest, and then we found my favorite place with Jesus there. And then we watched the sunset, and then we shared stories and inspirations for writing. She's a writer and I write too. And we listened to a favorite winter tale on my telephone, and yeah, it was just so peaceful and so full of God. And then we got really hungry, and then we had some cake on the top of the mountain, and then we really felt like drinking something, so we went to a very beautiful building. We thought it was a cafe, but it was a super fancy restaurant. We sat down like we only want a hot chocolate, and they were okay with it, but it was a super fancy restaurant. We were just there in our like winter clothes drinking our hot chocolate, and everyone was like super fancy. Oh, it was so funny. And it was like, yeah, the whole day was just organized by God. And it was so beautiful and so peaceful. I don't know how to tell you. If you have never suffered from anxiety, it probably does not make sense to you what I'm saying. But there is such a heavenly joy and peace about not planning ahead. It's not like it's wrong if you ever plan ahead. Probably I will still plan ahead at times, but now I realize that for a day to be perfect, my assistance is not needed. Actually, it's quite harmful. If I know something ahead, I might play it in my head. I have different versions in my head, and it takes so much energy. But if I don't know what's gonna happen, I can't worry about it. And only the version happens that happens, and all the other versions don't have to take place in my head. So yeah, there is something heavenly about it. So yeah, I would absolutely advise you, it's to have an afternoon or a day with no plans whatsoever, and just watch what God organizes for you. It's so good. And the best thing is that all of it is surprise. And if you knew it, it might turn into something that is a burden. So if I knew that I had to go through all the mountains at that afternoon, on that afternoon I would be like, I'm not sure I want this. But I didn't know. It was all the sequence of events coming from each other. It was all a surprise. Um, I don't know. And you can, it's not my personality. So it's a liberating thing to try, even if your personality is far away from it. So sometimes we say like, oh, it's not my personality. And we say, okay, I don't want to experience the freedom of God on that particular area of my life. So it's like, it's really far away from my personality. And there is such a thing as the culture of the kingdom. And yes, the kingdom of God has its culture and its freedom and its spontaneity and its no control. And I love organizing, and probably I will organize things at some points of my life. But now I could just like have a proof of like things won't turn into a disaster if I don't control. There always had this in my head, like I'm so terrible that if I don't control every actions and everything I do, then everything will turn into disaster. So I have to pay double attention than a normal person, because this is the only way to prevent my life to fall apart. And it's such a lie. Yeah. And I know, like, you might you you might never had like chronic anxiety, but people who are like very healthy, like from the perspective of the society, they can still be control freaks. And this is why I say, like, even if it's far from your personality, try this and let God show things about you and things about how His kingdom works, because there is something supernatural about giving over the control and like simple everyday things. And for me, it's better if I don't even ask God what to do. Like asking for God's guidance, for me, it can be a part of control. Like I want Him to show me what to do. But the best flow experience for me is when I don't plan, I don't ask God, I don't watch anything, I don't calculate, I don't even try to hear God. I just expect God to do everything, and I'm just a viewer of my life, an observer of God's micromanaging all the details, and I'm just a fun little kid expecting Dad to make my day awesome. Yeah. So it's not my personality, it's the personality of freedom. And I think everyone needs to experience more of that. So give it a try. God bless you. You're so loved.